Good evening and welcome to our study on this Wednesday night in a frigid Alabama. So we're thankful that you're here. Let's go into the news and tell you what's happening this week. Under the New World Order, this one came out this week. Your vehicle is spying on you and sharing that data. This is something that most people don't know, and I just researched it, and it is actually true. This article says, the writer says, when I was much younger, if I really wanted to have a private conversation with someone, I thought that taking a long drive with that person was the way to do it. But those days are gone forever, he says. Unless you have a vehicle that was manufactured quite some time ago, your vehicle is spying on you. In fact, a report that has been released by the Mozilla Foundation actually states that vehicles are, quote, the official worst category of products for privacy that they've ever reviewed. The global nonprofit found that 92% of the reviewed automakers provide drivers with little, if any, control over their personal data, with 84% sharing user data with outside parties. You should be stunned at this. Basically what happens is they share your education, your internet browsing history, your location data, music and podcast listening habits, immigration status, religious and philosophical beliefs, and health information. So if you plan to purchase a new vehicle, you literally have no choice. Mozilla examined 25 different vehicle brands, and every single one of them failed to meet the nonprofit organization's minimum privacy standards, including Ford, Toyota, Volkswagen, BMW, and Tesla. They failed to meet the nonprofit organization's minimum privacy standards and were found to collect more personal data from customers than necessary. 84% of the reviewed car brands share personal user data with service providers, data brokers, and potentially sketchy businesses, according to a report, with 76% claiming the right to sell their personal data. They're selling your data and mine. So did you know that you are agreeing to all this when you buy a new vehicle? Of course. So when you sign, you quickly sign all those papers. When you sign those papers, you're signing your privacy away. Unfortunately, these big corporations just can't be trusted. They're taking advantage of us. In addition to sharing information on your forms about you, Volkswagen just announced that it will be installing ChatGPT in new vehicles later this year. And that chat box will be available across VW's lineup, including the Tiguan, the Passat, and the Golf, as well as the automaker's ID family of electric vehicles. Volkswagen unveiled its first vehicles with a voice assistant that uses artificial intelligence, AI technology, behind ChatGPT at the CES Electronics Trade Show in Las Vegas this past Monday. The company says that in the future, AI will provide additional information as its capabilities continue to expand. So a lot of consumers will eagerly embrace this cool new feature. But where is all of this ultimately taking us? In the not too distant future, AI could literally be all around us every single moment of every single day. So how will we have any privacy at all once that day arrives? Let's go on to the economy and tell you what's happening there. Well, I don't know if I even have there it is. U.S. consumers are engaging in a historic debt binge that won't end well. Americans are going into debt as if tomorrow will never come. What we are witnessing right now is truly a historic debt binge. Now, most people aren't aware of it. Most people don't care about it. Most people believe the media when they tell you that we're doing well economically. We're not. In America today, the cost of living has become exceedingly oppressive. You've faced that. Employers are laying off large numbers of workers, and poverty and homelessness have been absolutely exploding all over our country. Millions of U.S. households are just barely hanging on by their fingernails. And many desperate consumers have been piling up debt in a frantic attempt to stave off the inevitable. U.S. consumers did not rein in their spending this past holiday season during Christmas. And now we have near record-breaking debt balances to show for it, according to the Federal Reserve data just released. December was the worst month ever for personal debt in America. It was driven by higher rates of revolving credit, which, by the way, soared to nearly $19.5 billion. Delinquencies are at the highest level since 2012. Credit card usage and buy now, pay later usage seemingly surged during the holidays, on top of already hefty debt loans. So what's happening is, we Americans want things, and it doesn't matter if we can't pay for them right away, we put them on credit. But the average credit card is carrying a 20% interest rate. So if you don't pay off your credit card the month you buy those things, you're getting hit with 20%. I've said it before. Credit card companies are nothing more than banks that charge excessive interest rates. Most cardholder notes have risen 5.25 percentage points during this span of this year. 56 million cardholders in the United States have been carrying balances for at least a year. That means they're paying 20% on their unpaid balances every month. Avoid credit card debt if you can, obviously, because it's literally a financial prison. But many Americans have no choice. More than 60% of American households live from paycheck to paycheck. Our leaders insist that they have inflation under control. Don't believe them. They are lying to you. We can see it's not the case. This week, a restaurant owner charged $16 for a BLT sandwich, and it made headlines over the nation. But because of rapidly rising costs, he only makes $2 on each sandwich. I don't know about you, but I remember when I could go to the grocery store and pay $20 for my groceries. Now you're paying close to $20 for a BLT sandwich. Cam Harvey, the economist who discovered the Treasury yield curve and its ability to forecast recessions, is reiterating his call that a downturn is likely ahead in 2024. The tremendous economic turmoil that we've been experiencing during the Biden administration is just the beginning. All the long-term trends are pointing in one direction, and the consequences of decades of very foolish decisions are starting to catch up with us very rapidly. So if you are in debt, I don't want to scare you, but I do want you to do this. I want you to get out of the credit card debt as fast as you possibly can, because it is a prison. Let's talk about the war. The World is at War is the title of a new Gatestone Institute article. The title is not a world war, but a world at war. The past 2 years have seen the most conflicts of any time since the end of the Second World War. And even more sobering is that the global superpowers are either directly or indirectly involved in supporting most major conflicts and skirmishes in North Africa, in the Middle East, in Europe, Pacific. U.S. weapons are used by Israel to fight Hamas, and Western ally munitions support Ukraine against Russia. Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah are all fighting Israel. They're directly backed by Iran, and are all using Chinese-made weapons. Russia is using Chinese and North Korea munitions in Ukraine. So these proxy wars can, if unattended, become direct wars between major powers. And all the major powers are involved in all of these wars. So today's conflicts represent a real escalation. The question is, will all these regional conflicts lead to an all-out global conflict? You know your scriptures, you know prophecy, you know about wars and rumors of wars. Today, regional conflicts could be precursors to a far more direct conflict among global superpowers. And the situation could worsen in the blink of an eye. Isaiah foretold of this rebellious world, quote, "Because you despise this word and trust in opposition and perversity and rely on them, therefore this iniquity shall be to you like a breach ready to fall, a bulge in a high wall, whose breaking comes suddenly and in an instant." It's Isaiah chapter 30, verse 12. Also, I want to give you, under this article, prophecy, I'll get it in the spotlight, I want to give you this one. Prophetic megatrends reshaping our world in 2024. So if you're interested in prophecy, and really you should be, because we're living in it, these are some of the things that you need to be aware of. AI, artificial intelligence, has really come on the scene in a dramatic way over the last year, but it's going to continue to accelerate into a mushroom as we go into 2024. Maybe you could do some research on your own. What I want you to do is look up BlackRock and AI. It's a corporation that has more assets than any single country in the world. I forgot how many trillions it has, but they're the ones that sprung AI on us, and they're the ones that used AI to plot stocks, and now they sell that information to stockbrokers, but they are gobbling up most of the world's assets. BlackRock, you may want to do a little search on Google for it. They are using AI in ways that you could never even imagine. And I've taught it before, and I'll teach it again. AI is definitely part of the Antichrist system. The Bible says in Daniel that he came out from us. The Antichrist was not of us, but came out from us. The AI is not of us, but it's definitely coming out from us. More on that a little later on. The second part is China's impact on global events. Obviously, China has been bent on reunification with Taiwan, and that means taking Taiwan. If that happens, we will definitely be in a world war, because Taiwan is an ally of ours, and we depend on an awful lot of things from Taiwan. China could very well act this year. This is their moment. This is their window. Biden is soft. They know it. The whole world knows it. If Trump got in office, they wouldn't dare act because he's a hardliner. But right now is their time. From now until our election, we really need to watch China. Then there's digital currencies, CBDCs. It's paving the way to a one world economy and the Antichrist. These are all things happening in our lifetime. Then the fourth one, narratives surrounding climate change. Climate change is a hoax. Climate change is being whipped up constantly as an existential crisis for the world, and that's simply not true. They used to call global warming. They don't do that anymore. Now they change it to climate change. Listen, if America shuts down all its fossil fuels today, it would only lower the temperature by a mere 0.3 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100. So, the creation of a crisis can bring about compliance and gain control. Obviously, we saw that with the pandemic. You can gain control over people. That is what climate change is, and it's paving the way for a global control that we will see exercised, I believe, by the Antichrist. 5. Russia. Russia has chosen to align itself with the Palestinians in the Israeli-Gaza war, paving the way for the future war of Gog and Magog in Ezekiel 38 and 39. 6. Israel in the Middle East. The most important and significant megatrend is Israel in the Middle East. This is a flashing red light. We should all see this as prophecy. Israel's mission to hunt down Hamas is stoking fears of an escalation of this war. Israel has vowed to assassinate the leaders of Hamas, tracking them down wherever they are, even after the war is over. Most of them can be found in Lebanon, Qatar, and Turkey. Israel is also assassinating leaders from Iran as well. Meanwhile, Turkey has just arrested 33 people who are suspected of being Mossad agents, Israel's version of CIA. Turkey has said very clearly that if Israel attacks any Hamas leaders on Turkish soil, there will be serious consequences. So the spark that ignites the fuse, what is it? Iran is obviously a veteran enemy of Israel. But we can also see now that Russia and Turkey's relationship with Israel is deteriorating and being strengthened with Iran and Turkey. These are the three key players of Ezekiel chapter 38. All of these different events, or the combination of them, could easily be sparked and ignite the fuse to blow up the Middle East powder keg, and can so easily precipitate the war of Ezekiel 38. You and I are privileged to stand on the cresting waves of prophecy. That's right. No matter how bad it is, you and I are right in the middle of it. To live in a time closer to the return of Christ than any other generation in the history of the world. We sense the nearness of his return. We see the signs of the times. We know the world is reaching a climatic point of unparalleled crisis. And you and I will be rescued by Jesus himself. Let's talk a little bit about religion and how that is panning out in our world. Pope's in the news again. The Pope cannot overrule God, this article says. The recent pronouncement of Pope Francis allowing priests to bless same-sex couples is especially distressing to many Catholic bishops and priests and laymen. A Catholic bishop, John Zirmak, wrote on Tuesday, "Today I got one of those emails nobody wants to receive." He says, the ones where a journalist informs you that the leader of your church has authoritatively endorsed grave unrepentant sin, not just timeless and current church teaching, but the natural law itself, and opened up faithful clergy to persecution by the state. Later in his article, he remarks, Pope Francis poisonous reign of terror. It's not just a step in the wrong direction, he says, it's a theological double talk, spiritually drivel, and a mockery of the Word of God. Faithful Catholics around the world will reject, he says, this apostate message. Sorry about that. It has no support in Scripture. It's divine morality or an historic church tradition, whether Catholic, Orthodox, or Protestant. No priest or pope or pastor or spiritual leader can bless something that God himself does not bless. Their words are empty. They're void of divine power or authority. They are human utterances and nothing more. As much as a gay couple may be in love, as much as they may revere the traditions of their church, as much as they may be models of kindness and loyalty, the fact is that male plus male or female plus female represents a fundamental violation of the meaning of marriage, not to mention a fundamental violation of the nature and the purpose of humanity. Zimmerich writes, if a Christian leader says we are now blessing couples living in adultery, there will be outrage. If a church had a weekly porn night or after worship and prayer the congregants would watch porn, it would set the internet ablaze. No major church leaders are sanctioning adultery or fornication or pornography, but some are sanctioning same-sex unions, same-sex marriages. That's why we respond, he says, as we do. It's the same thing with LGBTQ plus activism in general. I'm telling you, there's going to be a split in the Catholic Church. It's coming very, very soon. That activism is affecting children in our nursery schools, he says, and young adults on our college campuses. It's everywhere in our society, from social media to the world of sports, and from TV and Hollywood to the business world. We cannot afford confronting LGBTQ plus activism and ideology wherever we turn. So we either push back with our own values or we cave in and capitulate. It's the same with the Pope's ridiculous pronouncement. There must be a reply. That's why he's doing this. The blessings, quote unquote, would sanction something God does not sanction. This as another step in the direction of the ultimate goal, namely the full acceptance of gay relationships by the Catholic Church. As for the notion that these blessings were possible as long as they, quote, do not transmit a wrong concept of marriage, that's what the Pope said, my response is short and sweet. Are you kidding me? Really now? Is the Pope telling us a gay couple can live together, can be emotionally and physically intimate, and can commit to lifelong faithfulness without transmitting a wrong conception of marriage? He ends it by saying this: this Pope is not representing God, the gospel, or the truth. That's pretty amazing. All right, let me give you another one under religion. That is a church service in Germany, and it's an interesting one. The title of this article is this: Can a chat box preach a good sermon? Hundreds attend church service generated by ChatGPT to find out. Dear friends, it's an honor for me to stand here and preach to you as the first artificial intelligence at this year's Convention of Protestants in Germany. That's that image that's on that screen. By the way, he's not standing there. The avatar said with an expressionless face and monotonous voice. The 40-minute service, including the sermon, prayers, and music, were created by ChatGPT and Jonas Simmerlein, a theologian and philosopher from the University of Vienna. I can see the service, he said, but actually I'd rather accompanied it because I would say about 98% of it comes from the machine, the 29-year-old scholar told the Associated Press. The AI church service was one of hundreds of events at the Convention of Protestants in Bavarian towns of Nuremberg, Germany, and the neighboring Fürth. And it drew such immense interest that people formed a long line outside the 19th century neo-Gothic building an hour before it began. This year's gathering is taking place from Wednesday to Sunday under the motto, "Now is the time." That slogan was one of the sentences Simmerlein fed ChatGPT when he asked the chat box to develop the sermon. I told the artificial intelligence, we're at a church congress. You are a preacher. What will the service look like? Simmerlein said. He also asked for psalms to be included as well as prayers and a blessing at the end. You end up with a pretty solid church service, he said. Indeed, the believers in the church listened attentively as the artificial intelligence preached about leaving the past behind, focusing on challenges of the present, overcoming the fear of death, and never losing trust in Jesus. Doesn't that sound good? The entire service was led by 4 different avatars on the screen, 2 young women and 2 young men. Some people enthusiastically videotaped the event with their cell phones. Heidris Schmidt, a 54-year-old who works in IT, said she was excited and curious when the service started, but found it increasingly off-putting as it went along. There was no heart, there was no soul, she said. The avatars showed no emotions at all, had no body language, and were talking so fast and monotonously that it was very hard for me to concentrate on what they said. Mark Jansen, 31-year-old Lutheran pastor from Troisdorf, near the western German city of Cologne, brought a group of teenagers from his congregation to the church. What the young pastor missed, however, was any kind of emotion or spirituality, he said, which he says is an essential when he writes his own sermons. Anna Puzio, 28, a researcher on the ethics of technology from the University of Twente in the Netherlands, also attended the service. She said she sees a lot of opportunities in the use of AI in religion, such as making religious services more easily available and inclusive for believers who for various reasons may not be able to experience their faith in person with others in a house of worship. However, she knows there are also dangers when it comes to the use of AI in religion. She said, the challenge that I see in AI is very human-like, and that it's easy to be deceived by it, she said. She also said, we have to be careful that it's not misused for such purpose as to spread only one opinion. Artificial intelligence will increasingly take over our lives. It's in all its facets, Sumerian said, and that's why it's useful to learn to deal with it. There was no real interaction between the believers and the chat box, which wasn't able to respond to the laughter or any other reactions by the churchgoers, as a human pastor would have to have been able to do so. Artificial intelligence does not know the congregation, but trust me, it is well on its way. Let's go a little bit further. And this article, this one I put in, The Dangers of Wokeism, Moral Decay. This one says, parents betrayed, schools secretly transitioning students. Now parents, if you're out there tonight, you have to listen to this. This is not something happening far away, something happening in the United States. These are the dangers of wokeism. I was shocked when I read this. There was a time when parents sent their kids to school, assuring they'd be safe, but those days are over. And too many families are finding out the hard way. Jennifer and Dan Mead already had their hands full. Their middle school daughter, who's on the autism spectrum, had started to really struggle. Most days she was pretty sad, her mom says, and we were feeling a bit desperate, Jennifer remembered. So I was working with a counselor at the school who acted as a go-between the teachers and their family. Just really listen to this. Their relationships grew over the month, and I trusted her, Jennifer insisted. But trust turned out to be a one-way street. The Meads were horrified to discover instead of protecting their daughter, the Michigan school was secretly transitioning her. Without Dan and Jennifer's knowledge, behind their back, they agreed to call the 8th grader by a masculine name and male pronouns. And the counselor they'd come to love and respect was fully responsible. No one asked for her parents' permission or even informed them that this was happening. The school never let on that anything was different. They still used her given name and biological pronoun in conversation and on written forms that were sent home to her parents. So the family had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. But one day, they found out. In a slip, someone slipped and they put a girl's name to a boy's name on a form sent home. Stunned, the parents slowly started to uncover an entire web of deception. They began to find other clues that their daughter was being fed a steady diet of trans indoctrination. They found a queer graphic novel in her backpack, given to her by the same counselor pretending to be Jennifer and Dan's advocate. The truth was harder to believe than this had been going on for 2 years. At one point, she even considered chest binding, the parents discovered. I was disclosing intimate, private information with the school, Jennifer said. I thought they were in our daughter's corner. I was shocked and I was hurt. This hurt our family and this hurt our child. Listen, it gets worse. Furious that the Rockford Public School District had betrayed them, they demanded answers. All this time, they were working with school officials. Those same officials were hiding from them the fact that the school district had socially transitioned their daughter without their knowledge. And yet when Dan and Jennifer Mead confronted their school district about it, the school district told them, this is the way it is. This is the policy we have. This is life-changing information that they were keeping from us intentionally. Her attorney says she's right. Parents have the Constitution a fundamental right to direct the upbringing and education of their kids. Parents have the responsibility to raise their kids, a responsibility given to us by God. This much is clear from their daughter's state of mind now, since she's left the toxic environment of the school. Listen, she knows her identity. She knows that she's female. She knows the truth, that she was confused because of her autism. Jennifer shared, she's safe. She trusts us. I see her smile. I see her laugh. I see her joyful. Her relieved mom says. Her grades are up. She enjoys life. And it's so wonderful to see because she was miserable almost every day at the point where she said, Mom, I don't see the purpose anymore. And when we pulled her out of school and loved her and kept her safe and told her the truth of who she was and is and who she was meant to be, it was like a weight lifted off her shoulders because she didn't have to deal with this and didn't have to carry the anxiety with her every day. We have our daughter back, Dan chimed in. Unfortunately, not every parent is so lucky. As Kane pointed out, this isn't an isolated case. It's happening all over America. We're seeing these kinds of policies all around the country, she said. Parents need to know that they have the rights to protect their kids in this circumstance. They need to make these decisions, the tough ones, like pulling their children out of public education and homeschooling them, which, by the way, is on the rise big time in America. Let's go a little bit further and talk to you about Harvard. So not just what was happening in the past news. Harvard does it again, partners with Palestinian University calling for genocide. Harvard University's President Claudine Gay resigned earlier this month, weeks after she testified before a House committee that it wouldn't necessarily violate any Ivy League schools' policies to call for a genocide against Jews, is partnering with a Palestinian university in Judea and Samaria that appears to endorse calls for genocide against the Jews. This article goes on to tell you it's in Amman, Jordan, it's in Lebanon, and basically no Jews are welcomed in the school that they're partnering with. The university has become a bastion of rampant anti-Jewish hatred and harassment. Harvard has partnered with them. Jews are being denied equal access to Harvard's educational opportunities. Among other things, the school's name is Biz-Reitz. The building and events are named after convicted terrorists. Military parades on campus feature students wearing mock explosive vests while waving Hamas flags. Rather than end its affiliation with this anti-Semitic terrorist-supporting university, Harvard touts its berserk partnership. So Harvard spokesman said the university is a public institution governed by an autonomous board of trustees with no political, religious, or sectarian affiliation. That's not true. Harvard is a branch of Hamas propaganda, and it's partnered with them. This is one of the bastions of our schools, of our elite schools, and Harvard is not the Harvard that you thought it was. It is definitely something that's subversive, something that's working against Christians, and something that's working against Jews. And so if you have a child that wants to go to Harvard, that seems to be the great thing to do. Please discourage them from doing that. It is a terrible school. But here's some good news. Lastly, I know some of you want to hear good news. So we've been talking about colleges, and this is good. Wheaton College prohibits employees from using preferred pronouns. Wheaton is a Christian college located in Wheaton, Illinois. The college recognizes the pronouns she, her, and hers, and he, him, and his as expressing the created reality of a biological binary, the student handbook says. The college neither endorses nor requests the statement of preferred personal pronouns by members of the college community. Wheaton College, they said, does not permit the statement of preferred personal pronouns by employees while conducting college business, when on a platform where they are publicly identified as college employees, and or when using the college brand in print or digital media. They're forbidding their employees to use other pronouns. They have to use the pronouns of their biological sex the person was born with. It also says college-created forms, surveys, and questionnaires should only include male and female sex options without additional gender options. Man, it's about time that we start to answer this woke generation, this woke culture. That's in the news for tonight.